What's up, Achievers? Jason here, and welcome to your overhead mobility breakout session. And so there's a number of things that might be happening in terms of what's restricting your overhead mobility. One of them could be your core stability. One of them could be your T-spine extensibility. One could actually be your shoulder joint range of motion. And then finally, one could be just your overall strength and stability. Okay? All these things can play a role in terms of being able to raise your arm overhead efficiently. Okay, so hopefully this sequence of drills really helps you to tie all those bits and pieces together and leads to a better overhead position, which can lead to better overhead pressing, push pressing, snatching, all these different exercises that really demand overhead mobility. Okay, so two things that you'll need today are one, a foam roller, and number two, any sort of dowel, stick, broom. This is my child's toy broom here that you can use as well. But anything works that is basically a stick, okay? So what I want you to do is first start off in an all fours position. What you're gonna do here is you're gonna slowly arch your lower back, chest down towards the floor, and look up as you do so, okay? One vertebrae at a time. I really want you to think about that. And then I want you to go the other way and slowly round your lower back and push your upper back towards the ceiling as if you're a cat. You're really pushing your hands into the floor. So we love the cat-cow because it really helps to drive some good range of motion in a gentle way throughout the entire spine. And just helps to loosen up the T-spine, the lower back, in a really cohesive way, in a really natural way. So we're just gonna get a few of these here. Chest tall and proud, looking straight ahead at the top. And then really pushing the floor away at that bottom position. Let's get one more of those. Awesome. From there, we're going to move on into what we call a bench T-spine extension. Okay, so you can use, again, any sort of stick object, and you can use a bench, you could use a chair, an ottoman. I'm going to use my couch for this one, but it really helps to have something to prop your elbows up against. So what you're going to do, grab your stick here, and you're going to grab it about shoulder width apart, and it's going to be palms facing towards you. Now from there, I want you to get your elbows directly up against that elevated surface. Now, this part is crucial here. I really want you to think about tucking your hips under, okay? So slowly tuck your hips under. That's the reason why we did cat-cows before, because it really helps to tie into this drill. And now really tighten your abs and maintain this position as you slowly bring your hips down towards the floor, bring your chest down towards the floor. Okay, now it doesn't matter how low you go, it just is really important to keep that lower back from arching and extending and really compensating here, okay? So tuck those hips under this whole time. And then from here, if that feels pretty good, I'm just gonna have you lower your hands down towards your upper back. And that gets a really good lat tricep stretch at the bottom here, in addition to the T-spine extension that we're really driving with this position. And then from there, hands come forward. I want you to glide forward. And we're gonna repeat that again. Tuck the hips, slowly reach back, bring your hands towards your upper back, and hang out at the bottom here for about 5 seconds. Trying to breathe and relax. And then come back up. We'll do a couple more reps here. Tuck your hips, sit back towards your heels, try to sink a little bit lower if possible, and bring those hands close to the upper back. You should get a good lat, T-spine, tricep stretch at the bottom. And we'll get one more time. So again, tuck those hips under, keep those abs engaged, and you're gonna come down. This is what I was talking about with core stability. If your core isn't engaging enough, your lower back's gonna start to arch and place more of a stretch there rather than your T-spine, your triceps, and your lats. So really tuck those hips under. And then come back up, okay? Now from there, we're gonna drive some more range of motion, but not only having it be in this sort of bent arm position, but now we're gonna actually go overhead. So here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna kneel down like so, hands on the foam roller. I want you to almost simultaneously sit your hips back towards your heels while you drive your arms overhead and sink your chest down. So you're going to go as low as you can, really trying to stretch overhead, and then come back up. Okay, what I want you to focus on is keeping those thumbs pointing up towards the ceiling. If they start to come down and the thumbs start to point towards each other, that means you're internally rotating at the shoulder and just puts it in a little bit more of a vulnerable position. I want you to be able to open up into this more neutral posture, and that helps you to loosen up that shoulder a little bit more, get a little bit more range in that T-spine. You get a couple more repetitions here. So again, keep those thumbs up towards the ceiling and really try to lengthen overhead at this very bottom position. You should really, again, feel some good triceps, feel some lats, all working together to get you down into this position. All right, perfect. Now from there, we're gonna move the foam roller off to the side, and then we're gonna go into some dead bugs. So I want you to lay down on your back, like so, into this sort of 90-90 position, okay? So 90 degrees back here and 90 degrees over here, okay? Now what I want you to do is really focus on getting your rib cage, getting your lower back down towards the floor. So I really want you to try to arch up towards the ceiling, and then I want you to breathe out and try to push those two areas down towards the floor. Arch up for me, inhale, and then exhale, try to push your lower back, your rib cage down to the floor. Let's get one more. Now the reason why we do an arch before is because it helps to learn where not to go in a really exaggerated way before going into the quote-unquote better position. It just helps to go through extremes to figure out where you should be in space. Okay, so now, once your rib cage is close to the floor, what I want you to do is bring those hands back up, those knees back up, and all I want you to do is maintain that position with your lower back towards the floor. It doesn't have to hit, but really close towards the floor, and reach your arm down towards the floor. Thumb pointing down. And then switch sides. You might find that one side is a little bit tighter than the other. Maybe one arm wants to bend. Maybe your thumb doesn't want to hit the floor. Maybe it wants to rotate. All these are totally fine. All I want you to do is just stop right before you find your body wanting to sort of maneuver or compensate for a little bit of stiffness overhead. So if this right here feels good for you, or this right here feels good for you, all of these are totally fine. Just make sure you breathe and relax through it, and just stop just short of where that compensation wants to take place. Now from there, let's say you are reaching the floor without any problems, without any limitations. I want you to now introduce the leg, ideally the opposite leg. So I'm going to lower my right hand towards the floor and my left leg. So it looks like this. At first, my leg is bent, because that decreases the demand, and then I'll switch sides. And the whole time, doing your best to keep your rib cage, lower back, glued down towards the floor. Now I want you to just explore here. Try to figure out where, with your legs, does it feel good and really challenging but productive, okay? So that might mean that your leg is completely out straight, and you can still control that core positioning, or it might be that your leg is a little bit more bent, and all of that is totally fine as well. Just exploring, again, what feels good for you and meeting yourself where you're at. Let's get a couple more each side. You should get some good core activation here. And again, that's going to be so key in terms of going overhead, because if your core isn't engaged, you don't have good awareness here at the trunk, what's going to happen is your body's going to go through the path of least resistance, and it's going to want to arch the lower back rather than really accessing your overhead mobility. And the more you keep doing that, the more you drive that compensation, the more your body will rely on the lower back arching and extending rather than gaining true mobility at that shoulder. Okay? So now that's done. Again, you should have a good awareness of where your core is in space. Now we're gonna go into our reach, roll, lift, it's called, okay? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna get on all fours and you're gonna sit all the way back towards your heels. And what I want you to do, with your right hand, I want you to reach as far forward as you can. This is your reach. Then I want you to spin that hand up. This is your roll. And I want you to lift that arm up overhead. Hold for a couple seconds, bring it back down, turn the hand over, and bring it back. Then we're gonna switch sides. Reach, roll, lift. Bring it back down, and come back forward. Reach, roll, lift, bring it back down, come forward, and back. Reach, roll, lift, and bring it back down. So a lot of these other drills that we've been doing so far have been relatively passive that have been incorporating overhead mobility. This one is going to be a little bit more active. So let's say the dead bug, let's say the overhead mobility drill that we were doing before with the foam roller. All those are going to be a little bit more passive. Gravity's helping you out. This is the first time where we're really actually fighting against gravity here with the shoulder. And really helps to go from passive to active in this manner. We're getting your mid traps, your lower traps, all involved to help out with T-spine extension, with overhead shoulder range of motion. All right, we'll get last one here, reach, roll, lift. And then come back up. Okay, so this next one is called the wall slide. Obviously, I don't have a wall behind me, but what I want you to do is position yourself against the wall, okay? So I'll hold on for 1 second. And what I want you to do is get your feet together like so. Bring your feet in really close to you like so. And now you're in this sort of like, almost like a butterfly position. Get your hips, scoot your hips all the way up against that wall. Get that chest up nice and long. And then from there, what I want you to do is get your hands, your arms, the back of your wrists, and the back of your hands up against the wall as you slide overhead into this Y position. You're gonna hold there for a second and then bring it back down. Again, trying to get everything touching against that wall. Okay, now this Y position might be super challenging and that's totally fine. As soon as you start to feel your hands want to peel off the wall, just stop right there. Okay, so that might be right here for you, and that's totally cool. Just bring it right back down. Come up, meet that point again, hold for a couple seconds, breathe, and then come back down. Now, you might be able to really fight and strain and struggle and try to get your arms up overhead, and even if you achieve it, you're not necessarily achieving greater shoulder range of motion. You're really using excess muscles. You're using your face, you're using your neck, using all these things, and you're fighting against it. And it's just signaling to your body, hey, I don't really like this position. A lot of other things need to happen in order for me to gain that range of motion, so I'm just gonna back away. And so you'll find that your shoulder range of motion never actually improves because you're fighting against yourself so much. So it's so important just to dial things back just a little bit, breathe, and really meet yourself where you're at. Okay, so keep on going for me. We got one more drill coming up. All right, perfect. That's our wall slide. And that really, again, helps out with shoulder mobility. It's not truly overhead, but it's getting there. It's getting your lower traps involved. It's opening yourself up, gets the lower body involved a bit as well. So it's a really good catch-all drill. Now, finally, we're gonna go into our scat push-up to downward dog. And I mentioned strength before, strength and stability. And we talked about core stability, that's gonna be important, but also your shoulder stabilizers and your overall upper body needs to be strong as well in order to be able to hit these overhead positions, okay? So here's what I want you to do. You're gonna get into a tall plank position. What I want you to do is sink your chest towards the floor and then push up towards the ceiling, okay? So it looks like this on all fours. Let me just slow it down for you. You're gonna sink down, squeeze your shoulder blades together, and then separate and push away. sink, and then separate, push away. And you can do this on all fours. You can do it in a tall plank position. Just meet yourself where you're at. What I want you to do from there is, let's say you're in that tall plank position, sink, push away. Now, while being pushed away, I want you to transition overhead. Now, this isn't like a downward dog, or rather it is, but the intention isn't to get these legs out straight and get a good hamstring stretch. The intention is actually bend the knees a little bit, because that allows you to get overhead range of motion further, okay? And then bring it all the way back, okay? So you're gonna do your push-up plus movement into a downward dog, okay? Now keep on going for me. If you'd like, you can do this on all fours as well. Just do your push-up plus, and then go into your downward dog movement. You can even, if you want to take things up even a little bit further, you can do a full push-up. Push up, get that plus movement, go into your downward dog. Let's get a couple more. Go at your own pace here. All right. Awesome. And the reason why we like that scap push-up to downward dog drill, again, now it starts to not only become more of an active drill, but you're really fighting against gravity and pushing into the floor, gaining a lot of strength in those stabilizers throughout the shoulder. Okay, so again, we introduced a number of different things. We introduced passive flexibility drills. We introduced some core stability drills. We introduced more active flexibility drills. And then finally, we actually gained some strength with some of these movements. So these are all really super comprehensive and really tie well together in a sequence. Now, if you'd like, if some of these drills you didn't really feel much of anything, it's totally fine to actually remove them and just kind of go with a more of a condensed version of this sequence, and that's totally fine as well, or go through it all. And it can help to go through it, let's say before an overhead day. Let's say you're doing overhead presses, you're doing snatches or push presses or kettlebell work overhead. It can really help to improve your mobility in that day. But also, if you feel like this was really challenging and your overhead mobility is pretty limited, it can help to do this 2, 3, 4, really every day if you'd like, as a way to just drive consistency and really drive a lot of patterning with that overhead motion. It can really help. All right, so hopefully this helps, and thanks everyone.